Why are they still after me?
I don't know.
The Bourne Supremacy is the second film in the Bourne franchise, and instead of Doug Liman directing, it is Paul Greengrass. And in this movie, Jason Bourne and Marie are living in India, and then the bad guys get back to them, and this takes Jason Bourne out of hiding, and now he's after the CIA. If I had to give a title for the Bourne Supremacy, it would be Bourne Revenge, Redemption, Corruption. Let's start with revenge. This is a revenge movie. And I'm not going to go into details. If you've seen the trailers, then you know I'm talking about. But just for some people who don't want to know, something happens and he goes out for revenge. And to see Jason Bourne going after the CIA, it just shows how much of a complete badass Jason Bourne is. And because in the first one, he discovers his powers. This time, he knows his powers, and he plans the events in order so that certain things happen, to see him line these things up to get back against the CIA. I mean, there's this wonderful part where he's right near the CIA building in Berlin, I think it is, and he calls them to ask for a certain person, and they're like, we don't know where this person is, and he's like, that's BS because she's standing right next to you, and that's just great. That's what I like about this movie, is that you truly see who Jason Bourne is. Now let's go to redemption. Part of this movie is about Jason Bourne reconciling his past, because he was a killer, and part of this movie is him recalling his first mission, how he killed these people, and to realize that this is not him anymore, but also just to realize how guilty he feels for killing these people and framing certain people for these murders. And when everything else happens, and sometimes he has situations where he could kill people, and it's that question of whether or not he will revert back to the old ways, or is he finally going to be overcome by his guilt and try to change his ways permanently, even after all these terrible things are happening to him. And corruption, not to give much spoilers, but in essence, this is the part where you get to see more of the CIA being corrupt, like certain people, and to see how certain people cover their tracks, while the regular CIA people, in this case represented by Pamela Landy, who's just trying to do her job, and is only after Bourne because apparently Bourne killed these two people, which was not, because he was completely framed. And just to see how much some people in the CIA will go after Bourne. That's just a fun subplot, and I think this whole CIA part is much more well done and much more interesting than the first movie. Let's talk about Paul Greengrass as a director. His style is something I love, because I talked about in the first movie how it's not that great of an action movie in terms of its structure and the camera work. This one is just wonderful because it feels like a documentary style. Like, you have zoom ins, you have like slightly shaky camera, like this camera isn't always still, and it's like someone was following Bourne or these people, and it's so interesting, because I think I was traveling in Taiwan and I was walking around and I felt like I was in a Bourne movie, because they would go to airports, they would go across the country, and it's like that. It's very surreal, and I love that style. Like, zoom in, zoom out, and like very saturated colors too, which is what the first movie was lacking, and that's like the modern action film these days. And I think Bourne was part of it. It's like you need more saturated colors, and this movie is also more green and more tinted. But I like that with the Bourne movies, and the editing is also much better. A lot of quick cuts. A lot of not too many long shots, but I will say that the shaky cam is a mixed bag, because although I do like the shaky cam, because it's the whole thing, like if someone was following Bourne, like they wouldn't know where to follow, and also they would be trying to avoid the fight. And although I do appreciate the style, because it's not a gimmick in this movie, it is slightly hard to follow. That would be like, yo, keep it steady, man, Moving on to other things, the score is much better, because unlike in the first movie where you had weird choices in music, this goes what they should have done in the first movie, is use the themes, the main theme, and sprinkle it all over the movie during action scenes. And it's done much better, Thank you, filmmakers, for doing that. That's why I like the action scenes more, also because I felt the sense of urgency because of the music. Also, what's great about this movie is Carl Urban's character. He doesn't say anything. There's nothing much in depth with him, but he is a worthy opponent to Jason Bourne throughout this movie. What do I not like about this movie? As I said, the shaky cam is a mixed bag. And part of it is also this fight in the middle where Jason Bourne is fighting this other agent. And it's not just because of the shaky cam, and I'm okay with the shaky cam to a point, but the fight itself is an excuse because there's no motivation for that fight. It's literally like, let's just have this fight. Just because we have to have a fight. And also this movie does kind of end by the 1 hour and 10 mark, even though it's a 1 hour and 40-minute film. And it's not a huge problem. It's a very minor problem. But rewatching it, you do realize that the ending could have been tied off much faster, and that's because I think it's because they realized that they needed more stuff in the movie, or this movie would be too short. So I applaud them for finding good action scenes and good motivations for these things to happen. But the main plot of the story doesn't end early. But that's, again, it's a minor film. Overall, Bourne Supremacy is my favorite film in the Bourne series. I love it. I love the action. I love the new style by Paul Greengrass. I love the story. I love the new characters. I love everything between Bourne and the CIA. This is just a wonderful action movie. I can watch this time and time again. I will give this movie a 9.3 out of 10. So, The Bourne Supremacy. Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. And I will see you in the next review, which is The Bourne Ultimatum.